It's almost time. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
What's cracking? I'm Nick Danger, and you're now tuned into the Art of MV. Welcome to the channel, and thanks for watching the video. Like on the way in, hit that thumbs up, share the page, and subscribe. And do me a favor, leave it all in the comment section for me. So we're going to talk about the bounce around. We're going to talk about why I like the fact that this is basic AF, you know what I mean? But the bounce around. I love to have these different ways of capturing what I need to do. So, like what's playing in the background is a simple impromptu performance between the MV1 Verse Lab and the SP. Just to capture something so that when I wake up for my morning tea or coffee, I don't have to fire up the entire studio just to listen to what I did the night before, right? And that makes this an invaluable piece, which is why I've not been pressed to upgrade gear. I've never really had gas, so every piece of gear that I buy is I put a lot of thought into it. You know, I think you should always buy your gear in. It should always have the capacity to be at least 2 steps ahead of where you currently are when you buy it. And this was way ahead. This preceded all these Tascam model mixers way before that. You know, this is a small version of a bigger professional version called the VS700, and it is you can find these for $250, and it used to actually have a transport section on it that had Mackie protocol, so it wasn't just basically for sonar or cakewalk like you would think. It was for everything, but it was a little deeper if you use sonar like I did, right? So anyway, it has a wave recorder on it, which allows for clean capture of anything that you would that you want to record as a performance. And there's a looper on there. And like you guys know my theory, I think this thing is embedded into the MV1 Verse Lab as the recording environment. They share too many similarities. You know, that's for another topic. Today we're talking the bounce around and how the SP and MV connection made it where I wasn't that disappointed no matter how bad the sampler is. You guys have heard this loop. Right, so I've got made a little leeway on this, and I got this divided up into sections. And this is what's cool about the MV1 workflow is that once you get into clip mode, you really can see what you're working with. So, and whether you use this or this, that's up to you. I go back and forth. I think this little connection that you see right here is even more implication of how much of an MV this really is when it talks about the MV series. This is called the Roland Verse Lab MV1, but I don't think it's an accident that everything with an MV and it does things like this for Roland. So let's just dismiss all that stuff. And this is still being used. I'm using it in the signal chain going to this broadcast. So basically my stereo dynamics processor is what's giving this a little bit more feel. So we've got 8 clips right here. Like this. String section. String with percussion, you know. So you see what we got there. Got a bunch of different parts. One thing I got to give that Av did mention about the creative flow here. it is something to get used to. Now, once again, if you look at the button count per square inch on this thing compared to some of either their other equipment, this has a lot of buttons going on, right? But I think the Octatrack has a lot of buttons. So I'm about to check that out. Y'all can see I have a little slight obsession with these Octatracks because they look like they're really interesting. But the MV has a lot of buttons going on, and most of these buttons, if you look at the shift with the rectangular over it, anything with a rectangular underneath, a rectangle enclosed words are shift functions. Save, shift function. Tempo has a shift function. Then you have the edit, where everything blinking, including the pads, see, are all have edit functions on it. And then that's in addition to their regular. You always have to be cognizant of the fact that these buttons all do a lot. And so there is a lot of bouncing around with the creative flow, and muscle memory is essential. So Av is right on one thing, is that if you don't use this a lot, you will forget, which is why I started kind of doing a few more videos on this one, because I'm thoroughly versed in this sequencer, and I wanted to really get a gist and be able to compare the two to see what I liked, what I didn't like, what was simpler, what they changed. And to me, they changed everything. This is never going to happen again, but they did a good job on this. This thing can do a lot. So let's get into song mode, where I've already laid my parts out here, right? If I hit forward, you can see it moves up a part, hit it by here, moves up another part. So that's another cool thing that you can do. This is basically a visual version of pattern mode from here, which is basically another version of song sequence mode from the MPCs. So you kind of see where this is going. All the theories and all the philosophies all don't change over time. It's just the GUI that changes. That's what you got to understand about customizing your workflow. And this is why I don't understand why the certain groups are obsessed with one type of workflow or perfecting a workflow that worked for somebody else. You know what I mean? So anyway, let's see how this works out. Says the drums on the MV bang, don't got ears. Yo, so that song mode, I mean, something easy to navigate. I mean, this stuff is so simple, man. Still only 2/3 of the way to the end because I haven't even dabbled in the vocal. I have dabbled with the inputs and sampling. I got sampled stuff in here and I'm working input. But right now, I'm really trying to master the sound and sequence. So we'll take, let's take this. One of them ways you make your drums knock. I mean, there's so many ways, and this is a huge conversation in the producer community is just banging drums. So I'll take a couple of these clips, like, right? So this clip, right? The main theme, right? It knocks okay. I haven't applied any limiter. There may be some mild compression on the track because each track has its own compressor, but not a whole bunch of gain staging or boosting the sound just yet, right? But why doesn't it knock like this one? That knocks just slightly harder, right? Listen. All right. And it knocks slightly harder because of this. There's a layered, right? Whereas on this one, there isn't. Nothing's there. It's just relying on this one and the Ghost Note 808. This kick is not in that sequence. That's why this one knocks just a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Because I layered it a little bit, turned that one down, and it just feels a little different. That's one way you can just get knock out of your, you know, everybody needs to stop asking or stop going to the forums. You know, I think that the forums and internet has made people too dependent. You can easily just simply wonder in your own creativity, and you'll find ways to make your beat knock or make it swing the way you want to, or even the sampler. Like I plan on using the sampler on the MV. It's just that I don't have a need for it now for it to slow the creative process or the creative flow down because I got this as a sampler, I have this as a sampler, I have this as a sampler, and I got the SP as a sampler. So there's just no need to fret over something that is so minor when something like the MV1 sounds as phenomenal as it does, right?